slide. So that I could be able to interact from the chat section as well. Okay. Are you sharing it? Yeah. Let me try sharing it. Can you see my screen? If you can see my screen, just drop an emoji on the chat section. Okay, thank you. So, so today I'll be taking us through what it means to mine ideas, and it will be based off what they call it, personal experiences I've learned from senior professionals, and also tapped as well as the way different um, agencies on a global platform now and on a global scale, how they are able to, mine ideas. But before we dive in, I would like to ask in the house generally, what does it mean to mine ideas? What does it mean to mine ideas? Anybody? I wouldn't like to call on here, but I just want to just openly, what does it mean to mine ideas? Lola says to dig deep. Yes, yes, to dig deep. What are you digging? Lola, what are you digging? You put on your mic if you want to speak, please.
I guess to look around, look at what has been done, look at how people are doing, look at the audience,
Okay.
yes, and get inspired by them.
Awesome, awesome. You've captured it. And even that of Tui, I can see you said to get inspiration. So you are correct. You've basically opened the floor for conversation today. It's essentially mining ideas. It's to dig deep to get inspiration. And as humans, first you need to understand how our minds work. And I take it as every human being is a creative. Now it's your ability to harness that part of your subconscious or harness that part of your mind that helps to, help you to mine ideas. You don't have to be, I want to remove a disclaimer. You hear some people who say, I'm not a creative because I don't write copy, or I'm not a copywriter, or I'm not an art director. As long as you're a human being, you are a creative. Your mind works based on the kind of things you have interacted with. It works based off what you've seen, what you've watched. It could even come from child experiences, right? And all these things, in one way or the other, when it comes to us doing our job as creative problem solvers, I don't like using the word advertising anymore because I think it's belittling, right? For me, I see us as problem solvers. We use creativity to solve problems. And since we're in the business of mining ideas, right, it is important to know where this root cause begins from. To take us deep into that, I have a short clip I just picked up from Brian Tracy that just basically helps us to understand how sometimes some things tend to block our mindset about how we even think creatively. And some of us may attest to it, even in coming up with ideas for some of the brands we are working on, not necessarily you being a copywriter or an art director. It could be you thinking on how you want to solve or how you want to manage your clients properly as an account planner or a business manager. So I'll just play this quickly.
Or don't touch that, smell that, taste this, get into that. And children gradually learn at a deep subconscious level that it's not smart to get off of the beaten track. It's not smart to try to look or touch or taste or feel things that mommy and daddy don't approve of. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that we live in the lap of an immense intelligence. And he described this immense intelligence as though it were an ether that surrounded the earth, like a huge mainframe computer into which every one of us can tap. This has been called throughout all of history things like the oversoul, or infinite intelligence, or the universal subconscious mind, or the collective unconscious, and we are going to talk about this aspect of human creativity as the superconscious mind. This superconscious mind is so much vaster than our own individual intelligence, and it is something that we use on a random and haphazard basis all the time. Have you ever had the experience of being working on a problem or trying to achieve a goal or being wrestling with some dilemma, and as you're walking along or driving along, an idea shoots into your mind like a bolt and it's a perfect idea? Or have you ever had the example, for instance, where you have been thinking about someone and they telephone you and the phone rings and it's them? We have examples of this all the time, where we have these almost unearthly bolts from the blue that seem to indicate that we have the ability to tap into a different form of intelligence than anything that is taught in the textbooks. There's a book by Richard Buck called Cosmic Consciousness, where Buck goes back over several hundred years of the most creative men and women of all time and finds that virtually every single one of them spoke about in their writings of an ability to tap into a higher form of consciousness. This superconscious mind is characterized by some of the following things. First of all, it's the source of all pure creativity. All great creative geniuses, all great innovations, all major breakthroughs in human history have come as the result of superconscious functioning. Some of the people who have written about using the superconscious function are, for instance, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Emerson said that he never wrote anything of his own volition, but he just simply acted as a conduit for this oversoul or this infinite intelligence, and it would pour through him and the words would flow out onto paper, word perfect, come through his brain almost as if he were tapped into an unearthly power source. Edison, the greatest inventor of the modern age, used this superconscious capability over and over again to tap into a higher power and used it for coming up with inventions and insights and so on. Every one of us has had the occasion of using this superconscious creativity where we're going through our day-to-day lives and we see a product or a service that we think should be used or think that somebody should be producing, and we say, I wonder why somebody doesn't offer that, or I wonder why somebody doesn't invent that. And then 2 or 3 or 4 years later, we see a major corporation comes out with exactly the product that we thought of 2 or 3 years ago and goes on to make millions and millions of dollars. The difficulty with our creativity is not that we do not have the same insights as the geniuses, but it's this one small distinction. The geniuses trust and believe in the value of their insights and in the value of the thoughts and the ideas that come to them, whereas we do not. We think of these ideas and we think, well, this idea can't be of any use. It came from me. It's my idea. And so we wait until see somebody else come up with the idea, which may not even be as good as the idea we originally had, and we say, isn't that person intelligent? Look what a wonderful idea they've come up with. Well, many of us think that our creativity is limited by our IQ, that our creativity is limited by the years of education we had or the grades that we got in school, that somehow creativity is something that only scientists and artists and musicians and painters have, or poets or writers. The fact of the matter is that creativity is a very simple concept. And to boil it down to its simplest words is that all creativity is simply a way of improving on the existing way of doing things. Every creativity...
Stop it here. So basically boils down to, I want to just throw a question out there based on what we've watched, and I'm sure this has happened to some of us, but I would like to hear some of our experiences. There's this thing they call, these guys, they call it 33 seconds of brilliance, whereby maybe you're in an odd place, or you're probably just walking by, or you're talking, or you're watching a movie, and then something just sparks in your mind. It could even be Larry, for instance, yourself. Maybe you're thinking money. Yes, you're thinking of money, or you're thinking of this big client that is to pay money and they're expecting them, and looking at how you want to map around. plan all the things to go out and all, and then something else pops up in your head. Have you ever experienced that kind of scenario? It could not, let's take it out of the workplace, right? It could even be maybe you are preparing for something at home, and then something just sparks, okay, I think I will do this. And then you forget to either pen it down or to even talk about it. And at the end of the day, you just find out that another person has ended up doing that thing before you even thought of doing it.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Larry.
Okay, sorry, just give me. Yeah, I deeply have had such instances. Not only the ones that I even sometime maybe during COVID or something. I mean, I remember vividly I was driving with someone and I just had this idea just popped in. Idea, right?
Okay.
And it was really good. It almost felt too good to be true, right? And it was just maybe a 30 minutes ride, and that idea was just popping in. I mean, nothing happened until maybe two. I made some introduction. I told him I'm a finance person, and then he said, we just got talking, and then he mentioned how he had this fintech idea, and he had someone to help with the idea. And when he shared the idea, 70%, I wasn't sure how to feel. Oh, I also want to bring this. I feel like maybe 70. And still, I just ate and I never spoke to anyone about it. So I can tell you things that happen. And a lot of times, this happens. I think some weird stuff. I'm in the car, get the back of my mind. These days, I've learned to send it to someone and say it's up. So yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Why I interrupt that was because I get people, creatives now, creatives say, there's nothing new that one wants to. And truly, there is nothing new anyone wants to. Creativity itself is what has been done, right? How do you know what's done? Based on what your eyes, ears, your acted with, what your senses have back to it. And it's that and forth of improving on and built on. It's just right. Someone has already been about this. You see into that. This one of the which ideas are mind. But this is a background how our minds work. With that disclaimer that okay, because I'm a business manager or because I'm in finance or because I'm not a creative. You don't have to be a copywriter, you don't have to be an art director to be a creative. It is inborn. It's about you being that fact and then intentionally penning it down and harnessing it. And today I'll be showing us ways in which we can further stretch our mind in terms of tapping into it.
Or don't.
Sorry. I said mining, the art of mining ideas basically it involves several techniques, right? Brainstorming, mind mapping, lateral thinking, and divergent thinking, right? It requires that open mind, right, to just be willing to accept things, but not just everything before you begin to now boil down to what works and what will be able to work for you, right? So, in a broader sense, is like Sophia said, digging deep. You are seeking out inspirations, right? You are looking up different things, right? For instance, maybe you want to work on a campaign for the very first time, and you don't even have an idea of what is going on. You can't just jump right and start writing copy or jump right and start doing design as an art director, which good enough in our or great enough in our organization. We have that structure of doing good homework before we come up with ideas, and that is the way it is basically when it comes to mining ideas. Sometimes you see some creatives want to just jump right into this thing, and yes, there's a truth to that. There's no rules, right? There are no rules to how you approach a creative problem or how you want to solve a problem, right, creatively. But it all boils down to you doing some necessary things, asking the right questions, finding out the what's, the whys. How is this thing like this? Why are people talking about this thing, this product like this? Why are people not using this product, for instance? The people using it in other markets, what is the difference between them that those that are using it and us that are here? It's in that space you are able to mine and develop what we call now the big ideas, right? And when you look at different brands globally and advertising agencies, many of them have approached this subject. In fact, many have gone through they've devised models and processes in which they are able to, mine ideas. You see agencies like Gray they believe in famously effective ideas, right? And for them, famously effective is developing a creative idea, right? But not just a creative idea, but an idea that actually solves a problem, right? And it is memorable, right? You see some like Ogilvy now, they'll tell you it's beyond big idea. They'll tell you it's big ideals. What will be beyond just a campaign and become part of human's life and everyday day-to-day life. It's basically what, and if you look at all this, there are some key, what they call it, key things we can learn and which we do apply even here at Image and Neukleos, and which is research. There's a lot of power in research. Research helps us to understand what we are doing. It helps us to understand who we are speaking to. It even helps us understand the clients we are working for. And from research, which then leads to insight, right? And another day, hopefully, we'll talk deep on facts and insights. But culture, we are in the business of having culture, right? Here, media and time. And it's about understanding the culture of the people you are communicating to. You cannot be communicating to Nigerians and be using, for instance, maybe Japanese, what they call it, language on them. They will definitely be looking at you like, Oga, what are you doing? Right? And another thing is reach, right? How do you want to meet these people? What are the platforms you can find these people? Without creating the traditional advertising, where 360 radio, this, every other thing was the big idea cross. No, it has gone beyond that now. Mining big ideas, especially when it comes to the advertising space now, or in our business of some problems and providing solutions for them. It has gotten to that point where we look beyond just thinking platform or thinking this thing, but actually solving problems, which is what mining ideas does. It helps you, it takes one out of that box and helps one to think differently that aside from the way this person is doing this, how can I do it differently that it will work for me, right? And it will work not just for me, but the end user at the other end. How will it work for the end users? And then you have to consider your client. How will your clients accept it? Will it be something they will be willing to drop $100,000 bill on to just push for a campaign of billions of dollars? It's a matter of how you are able to and cultivate this idea. They are able to own that credit to we do. So what is a big idea? What is a big idea? I would like to ask Bukola, Bukola, could you please tell us could you help us? Not tell us. I know you know what it is, but we want to hear from a, from a, from a different perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Daniel. Good morning.
Hi, Bukola. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that the big idea first is out, but I think it's just a
Yeah.
single thread of truth that runs through. I think it needs to be at the intersection of the customer needs and what the product or brand attributes or but both sides that is consistent with what I'm trying to be about, but also meaningful to the end user who you're talking to. But it runs through absolutely everything.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. So it's this from what you picked, just basically like I guess maybe it's because we are all in space, but it's about in my own way, right? When I think of a big idea, I'm thinking of what can go the campaign, right? And based on what you said now, it is something that has to deal with um, that is able to speak to the end user at the same time the clients to make them accept it and consider that it will be profitable, not just in terms of revenue, but in terms of essence for them. Thank you so much. Quick clip of a veteran, some call him the father of advertising. From his perspective, which is David Ogilvy, what it means to harness big ideas. What are big ideas, especially? And I'll just quickly play this clip for us so we can take some learnings and
Now let's talk about big ideas. Big ideas. Now that's what the advertising business is really all about. I'm going to let you in on some of the ways that I found out to create brilliant campaigns. If you're lazy, you may sometimes lack into creating a big idea, but my advice is to start by doing your homework. Some flashy agencies scorn homework. They skid about on the surface of irrelevant brilliance. Other agencies are good at research and positioning, defining target audiences and so on, but are incapable of creative brilliance. As I see it, we have to do our homework and create brilliant campaigns. Don't be a bore. You cannot bore people. You can only interest them in buying it. Study the product. The more you know about the product, the more likely you are to come up with a big idea for selling it. Study the precedents. Look up the campaigns for similar products in recent years. Find out which worked and which didn't work, and then go on better. Study the research, how consumers think about your kind of product, what benefit you should promise them. But don't rely too much on research. A lot of people in our trade use research the way a drunkard uses a lamppost, for support, not for illumination. Get agreement on positioning. Get agreement on your target audience. Get agreement on brand image. Resistance to using good ideas from other countries is almost always due to the not invented here syndrome, NIH. Why should multinational clients employ Ogilvy and Mather worldwide if our offices refuse to borrow from each other? Boil down your strategy to one simple promise and go the whole hog in delivering that promise. The promise should be important and unique. And use research to find out what promise is most persuasive. Look before you leap. Perhaps the single most important word in the lexicon of advertising is test. Always keep testing. Testing new ideas, new headlines, new levels of spending, new media combinations, new kinds of commercials. Test, test, test. Strategy is of paramount importance. But a good strategy can fail if it is badly executed. If nobody looks at your commercials, it won't do you much good to have the right positioning and the right promise. The people who contribute most in our business have a marvelous quality of enthusiasm, gusto, infectious gusto. They're innovative. The beginning of greatness in advertising is to be different, and the beginning of failure is to be orthodox. So-called creative people have no monopoly on good ideas, so be ambitious. Raise your sights, blaze new trails, try to make advertising history. You know, what clients want from us is big ideas. Unless your advertising has a big idea, it will pass like a ship in the night. That's what the advertising business is all about, big ideas.
Thank you, David Ogilvy, Grandpa Ogilvy, great grandfather Ogilvy. So essentially, we've even headed from a veteran on a global scale. And thank you, Mosala. And it basically says it all. It boils down first to doing your homework. You must do your homework. You can't just expect to jump into something you have no knowledge about. You may even have knowledge about, but it's still good to just do a little bit small research. It gives credence to your work. And again, it's about thinking different. Because when they hear advertising, especially in this part of world, Nigeria, it's still, for clients, it's still that what's the big idea? It's still that big idea. From a lot of agencies, it's still that big idea. So it goes beyond just having a fine copy line. It goes beyond just having a very creative design or a nice headline. It has to deal with you sitting down to bring out something that is true to people, things that people can easily relate to. And how can you do that when you avoid the orthodox way of thinking and just think differently? I was having a conversation with Toby when we went for the pitch, and she for the PZ pitch, and she mentioned something about what she loved about the work we put together was the fact brief from a typical 316 a deep mantra, pull it further and further till we landed on the idea. And that idea now, that big idea began to work on the several platforms the clients intended to communicate with some other platforms that they see or think of in sending their, what they were typically thinking from the and digital, right? So it's for us true. Exactly, yes. You're fighting that in the setting the messages. The beginning of greatness in advertising to be different. Exactly. You need to be taking as commemorative days. I know sometimes I have to be like, damn, these union people, this is what they want. Just do this. No, I like easier. But sometimes what will make what we've done different, even if others are using the same point of talk, or have how we are able to stretch that right and think deeper. And when now we about your ideas, right? Don't spend too much time on this. I want us into the segment of the importance of ideas in advertising and content creation. At this point, I'll be calling on the mic first. And I know this, I'm not sure you saw this coming. Sorry. Yes. I'll be calling on the mic. It's not, I'm not, I'm just, I want when I mean us, I mean myself inclusive, everyone learn how we can take big ideas, right, to actually solve real problems. And with maybe a case study of one of the brands we've worked on in-house and how we were able to stretch it. And of course, the case study will be Union Bank.
Hi, Daniel. Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so the question is how to use the importance.
To solve big problems.
Okay, I it's a rhetorical question because the idea is to solve a problem.
True.
You mentioned Union Bank, and I think one of the things that big ideas do is they give you an avenue to seed in the style of the voice or the way, like the archetype of the brand. Those big ideas supposed to help with consistent with how we perceive the brand. So yes, I think over time, big your big ideas usually over different ways. It comes through communications. You get to understand a particular brand or how it that can inform your judgment on how Union Bank. I think that was one for us because Union Bank at the time we stepped in had done a rebrand, right? And outside, so it had playing and old people, the old systems we had. And we had done the rebrand wasn't just it was how they we stepped in sort of what the brand was to be, right? And came through later. It had and choose to add in an optimistic was always about so that just suppose that so my first point is that the big ideas help to build a brand. So one is to consistently way or all to string something and evidently it helps.
Thank you. I call it the onboard sound of the deck that campaign and right, and the problem Union didn't really have, they've not been able to blow up the campaign in that sense. For me, what struck me was how a problem or how a campaign where you have a strategy and plan there. And I find that we've been existing as a session led into which was the sound of the Union campaign, where it basically just expressed who Union is with, and you can see how that cut across within Nigeria of of uh, of sound using identity. We can go to that check as a reference. Big ideas are not just campaigns. So when thinking big ideas, we should think just the problems. And like that Mike said, it's about and how do you build a brand? True story, not just telling the regular stories people know. How can you take a story people know and tell it in a different way to it? They would appreciate it and you remember something that becomes a part of it. A lot of people talk about just me or like just do it. In all these different environments, what this is to understand the culture, understand the things that excite these people, and create something for the brand. For some brands, they come with this. Their audience is here, and the audience. Some they believe their audience are too, so you should not speak to them. There are some ways you can never speak to them. This this goes against and mind these ideas, thinking different. You don't have to stick one as long as it is able to one meet as we are and to the client they have the final say. When it appeals to you and a yay on it and they give a name, that idea will definitely a big idea can be and you should be able to cut us, right? Big ideas big ideas, but it's about how the idea original to you. You see writers like what's his name? I'm trying to pick his name now. He's still like an artist. It teaches you something really new. Looking to make that thing better. And that thing better different ideas based on the things you do. Able to reconcile new that you can that to you and that stands as original to you, right? So basically the qualities of a big idea. And these case studies remain. We'll be more case studies as we go on. How do you find or mind big ideas? Number one is blitzing. Blow your mind up. Blow up an idea. The first thing that should come to you were to make an ad out of this bicycle come to your mind. Let me drop on Sydney. Hi Sydney. The first thing that comes to your mind, if this was bad, seeing this bicycle, what you can see beyond just
Hi, Daniel.
hi Sydney,
Good
good
morning.
morning. Yeah.
Okay, so bicycle. Okay, fitness brand. I don't know the question, but I think when I think of fitness, I think of John.
Okay.
Outdoors, something that has to do. Yeah.
I made sure that Motala, what comes to your bicycle? You don't know where anything. Just seeing this picture itself. What
What places it can take you. I think adventure. Yeah, I think adventure.
So when I saw this about me, please, I thought someone has gone to commit suicide. Because what is the highway, for instance, in the middle of a highway, like so many things. Like, it could be maybe someone doing an accident and he just dropped by, or he wanted to go and drink water from the stream, or probably just eat. So many things, and that's just basically how our mind works. I think of one cat coming face to back, like so many things that come to your mind when you don't think of what you're doing there in the first place. You want to ask the question, what are you doing? It's not being road. It's just parked, and even there's a bottle there. Why would the person park it there? What does he want to achieve? Was he stopped by police? Was he stopped? What really happened? So many things. Asking these questions. Often attack as simple as we attack a brief from this angle. Asking questions at the beginning it may not make sense to anyone who asks this kind of questions. But at the end of the day, it leaves somewhere. And it is from this mind maps your mind as why is this thing like this? And in conversing and asking questions in a brainstorm, for instance, that these things come, right? Another right, metaphors are another way for us to get. When you look at something, what if I compare this thing with that? A chicken bicycle could even be the owl trying to communicate. I'm no longer seeing a bicycle. I think I'm seeing an owl that is trying to rotate his head. Anything that could come to your mind, that's how ideas are mind. Seeing things differently helps you to ideas in different. It helps you think metaphors. It helps you to think beyond just mediums and platforms anymore. You could even think of an experience from just being this simple, even deeper, right? That way is Another way is break, right? I remember when we had a session with G last year. It was like a week. I noticed it started with someone trying to break the ice in the room. And at the point where we began, every idea, everything, even when people would be like, nah, I don't think we want to work on this kind of brand, he kept on penning it. And what he's doing is simply called mind mapping. So at that point in a brainstorming, every idea is valid. I'm not sure we're hiding something maybe that could span off, and I know that it's big to think beyond what we are seeing and make it even a lifestyle, right? And sometimes you just be like, no, let's not go direction, right? Sometimes, not in all cases, but in some cases, in brainstorming, it's always advisable that no matter how anyone is good enough, it's always turn it down because we all will find a way to elaborate. Gini was streaming this one day, what different people are there, and at the end of the day, we started streaming down because at the beginning of a brainstorm, the idea is to go for quantity, right? Welcome as many ideas as possible. Be informal and be spontaneous about. When the room is too serious, people will not be free to express. There was an example of a board meeting with or a general town hall meeting friends from North Balabolo, and a lot of people were in the room were mostly mid-level junior staff, and they were not comfortable speaking because of their big organs and all were there. And so what they did was to get everybody to pick a name, pick a tag. So imagine calling an MD monkey, but I'm not saying it will work here, but it's just something that worked just to break the ice. So you see your idea and you say, monkey, I think you see your head of finance and you call him, I think this thing will work. You see, so you are no longer seeing things, you are making the room open. What it helps people to bring out that which is hidden. Remember what I said at the beginning. Our minds are creatives. There's nothing like I must be a writer or an art director before I'm a creative. It's a big lie. As long as you have a mind and you have a subconscious part of mind environment, you have a creative. It's about being conscious about these things and putting them to use when you are working, right? There should also be a point you evaluate, right? Of judgment at the point of brainstorming. Don't try an idea, even at the point of a brainstorming. Accept it. And at that point, you begin to break down into different and different techniques in helping us to innovate in the process of mind and question, right? And what we call the looking of what people have done, looking at what different people have done, consultants, different angles people have looked at things. The idea you don't want to restrict to only what people have done. You want to even look at what someone that I think I can do better than what I just do it. You want to look at God milk and you're like you can do that. That is basically what big ideas beyond the mediums, thinking beyond the ideas, just blowing it up. And the most is after the whole brainstorming has been done, after your metaphors, after you've done all the techniques, your ideas. It's about now putting this idea into a checklist, right? And mapping it. Does it my end users? Does it match or will it fit with what my clients will be willing to get? Will it be something that beyond that created it, we look at this work and we say, yes, we did a good job. We are proud of it. That is basically what it all begins first with having an open mindset. We're coming towards the end of the session, right? The famous Volkswagen think revolutionize a lot of campaigns, especially in advertising, and make people to begin to think differently, right? I'll quickly keep up time. Beyond now those campaigns, right? Look at Airbnb. People must have, in fact, they would have had this idea in their mind of having, if I'm to do my company, to feel at home. How can I lead that space? How can I be in Australia and still feel like my home in Canada? And they were able to, beyond just based on a human truth, based on insight, and of course, research they had done, they were able to think better, right? Think different. For Airbnb is thinking better. How can they build on something that is already existing? People were already doing this, but it was not as commercialized as Airbnb blew it out and made it to be. We'll go into the part where we begin to grab our popcorn toward the end of this thing. Just look at how I've basically revolutionized. Most will be coming from soup. They go out of the box, and some can expand our minds and help us as creatives, not just corporate, but even as not just content or studios, but even as a business manager, as an account person, as a finance. You are thinking of even a big idea, and you're able to walk up to either Mike or myself or to Safia or to even Derek and just share that, oh, I'm thinking of this idea. Do you think it is something that could work for our brand? Because the ideas can come from anywhere. So I'll play this Doritos one for us. Just to
Did you steal my Cheetos again? Just tell him it wasn't you.
But I caught you at the counter. Saw you snacking on the sofa.
What me?
You even had him in the shower.
It wasn't me.
I even caught you on camera.
You're the one who granted access to your snacks. Don't act surprised that she speak behind your back. You gotta keep tabs before she empty that bag. Let's review the situation. Orange fingers, red flag. To keep you on stash, you gotta hide it better. If she asks where they are, you say forget her. Never admit to a word, and please don't upset her. And if she keep on snacking, I guess you'll let her.
Well, did you?